There we go. Are we live again? Are we good to go?
It shows live.
Oh, it's
There we
freezing.
go.
Are we live again? Are we good to
Oh,
go? It seems to
Shows
be
live.
working again. Oh,
it's
you know
freezing.
what
There
I
we go.
should have
Are we?
done is I should have taken that opportunity to go refill my water bottle because I'm out of water. I should have done that. Uh, I forget we were talking about that one player.
No,
That's
not yet.
fine. Basically the joke is that she keeps naming things and then can't remember what that name was, and she's had like this moment like this is what this looks like, and this is she like tells me what the description of the items that I gave her are, and like I don't think you get to decide that.
Mhm.
She's like, you should make this character this, and I'm like, no, I'm the one
I'm
that
the
gets to do
DM.
that.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go fill my water real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, what have you been telling them?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, good. Then we just had dead silence while I was
Yeah.
gone. That's
Your
much better.
stream. I didn't want to take over.
Smug
Could have
mug.
started singing, but we don't want that.
Oh, we'd love to hear that. We should do a karaoke night or something.
Oh, sheesh. I don't know.
I think we
I
had
think
about half an
I love-
hour left. Um, but I'll sort of leave that up to you. Sort of when do you need to leave?
suppose I should turn my Xbox on and see if they're out of their tournament. I should have at least 20 minutes.
Okay. What you should do is you should go live, and then I'll raid you with my 2 viewers.
I don't know, Conan. I haven't done my makeup or anything.
You're fine. You could do your makeup right now. What are you talking about?
I could.
Yeah, you haven't been doing that. I was actually gonna suggest that you do that while we're sort of just sitting here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Do you have anything else that you want to touch on about sort of how we met? First impressions and whatnot.
I thought well, I watched a few videos. So, um,
Of the D&D.
yeah. And
You
I
haven't seen
was,
my terrible gameplay.
I haven't watched any of that, no. But I was very impressed with your voice. You have a great narrator's voice as well.
Yeah.
Um, but it's also like it's kind of like that tavern style D&D. Like you're very descriptive, um, which I love. I love to read books because if you're reading a book and then there's a movie, let's say, you always feel disappointed because you're reading the book and when the author's good and descriptive, you have this whole image in your head and you get to create your own kind of way you think these characters look or this
Mm-hmm.
room that the story is taking place in, and you kind of visualize everything your own way, and then you go and see the movie, and I mean obviously the movies are still great, but you're like, well, that's not what I thought, or that's not how I pictured it, or I'm very like, I like to take words and make my own visuals, and I
Right.
was able to do that when
I
you
know
were.
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I
And
was able to do that.
sometimes the movies are bad because they take creative liberties and have to nail it down to just an hour or whatever. But there is something to be said with creative liberty. You can paint a picture and like get someone hooked and interested without like having to be super specific. Like and they have like such and such, like you don't have to get super specific, you know. You can still I did have a problem where, you know, I do like to paint word pictures because first and foremost I am a writer. um,
Mhm.
so I feel like I do better when I write stuff out and then I read it in my narrator voice rather than just sort of being like, yeah, and then there's like a doorway, I guess, that leads over here that's like three chests in this room or something. um, uh, but actually, I feel like some of my best story making has happened on the fly, you know, with um, the the improvisational part, because that's what D&D is. It's cooperative Im, improvisational interactive storytelling. Cooperative interactive improvisational storytelling, because you're working together to make something very fun and interesting. You know, I may have the world, but the story is you guys. You know, that's how I see it, at least.
Yeah. And it feels like that when you can visualize it in your head. Enjoy that part of the game. So, yeah.
I did learn from the group on Sunday is that I describe too much sometimes, and what I should do is just sort of set the scene and allow them to explore. But you know, sometimes it's hard, like when there is something specific and important, you don't want to specifically like draw attention to it. Like you enter the room, what's in the room? Not much. Oh, but there's this bloody dagger that's stabbed into the wall that's like attached to a tripwire, and you should totally, you know, I can't like just say that. You know, I have to give a general description of the room depending upon, you know, what, you know, perception roll is, I guess, or whatever. um there was like an important scene where I described as they were going over to the water pond that there is a gazebo there, and like the gazebo is super important to the story. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff there, and there's a statue and whatnot, but they just didn't care, and they didn't investigate it at all. And I was like, oh, and like I didn't want to be like, yeah, there's this very important thing here for you to look at, when, you know, I'm just supposed to be very generic with setting the scene. So I'm torn, and it's hard. But yeah, thank you for saying that. I feel like I do have a good narrating voice, and I've actually learned how to do it. And I talked about this last podcast because the way that I used to talk is sort of like up here and very bright and whatnot, and I talk fast and I say and yes and like and whatever. But when I actually use my normal voice, and what I've learned to do is slow down and talk in a very, you know, not necessarily dramatic, but very precise way of speaking that allows me to take time to find the right words, and then, you know, say in a very uh, good time. I don't know. I'm like trying too hard now, I think. But you know what I'm talking about?
Vaguely, you're trying to I, I know what you're saying. I just don't know how to.
Oh,
I'm
okay, okay,
probably
okay.
in the same boat as you.
That's fine. Um, well, since we don't have much time left, uh, I'm just looking over here at my list of tangents that I wanted to go on, like dancing. Like there's so much that I want to explore with that, and that's got to be like another podcast or something.
Yeah.
um let's end with like that stupid thing from the beginning, like describe yourself in one word or less. Like, and here's a very important thing that I like to do. You know, I like to ask people, what's your favorite color, because you can learn about a lot about someone by their favorite color.
Hmm.
um you know, maybe a hobby, something that they're passionate about. You know, not necessarily like describe yourself in one word, but what's something about yourself that most people don't know that you think they should, like something that is important about who you are?
Um,
You want
that's
me to
a
go
really good
first?
question. Yeah, let me think about that for a second.
Something about me that very much defines who I am, like not necessarily as a whole, but like a very specific, uh, like I can't find the right word, but like an important part um, about me is that I am passionate. If I'm set to a job, I get it done. I make it happen. Um, but there are like things that, I'm not just clingy. I don't latch onto things, but once I'm hooked, I'm there to the very end. If someone's my friend, it's not just like a casual thing of like, yeah, I may respond to your message. If someone sends me a message, I will respond. I'm that person that
Mm.
responds almost immediately as well. And I'm constantly trying to reach out to people, making sure that they're okay and whatnot. Not that I need to be spoken to every single day, but, wouldn't be a bad thing, I guess. I don't know. Um, but I do check in with people and I try to, you know, I guess I'm being too specific on friends or whatnot. Um, but if there's like a video game or a show, like an anime or something, I collect all the books. I have some way of like holding on to it, that I have a physical collection of it. If it's a video game, then I get all the Steam achievements. I play it to death and I find like all the specific like hidden secrets or whatnot. Or I download the OST and listen to it. It when I'm passionate about something, I really get into it. Um,
Mhm.
and that's sort of like a thing that's about me, sort of, that I don't think a lot of people know, but is definitely something that helps like get to know who I am, that I think people probably should know. And that's sort of my thing. I'm also like big into music and whatnot, I guess.
Music is life.
Music is how I feel emotions. Music is how I sort of, experience stuff, and I guess in a way, release,
Oh yeah,
like
definitely.
get that stuff out. If
Hmm.
I need to be happy or if I need to be sad, that's the stuff that I go for. But
Exactly.
I could do like several podcasts on just music alone.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe that should be your thing. Music.
the whole point of this podcast is that I'm going to be just sort of chatting, being chill, hanging out, and going off on rants, rambling, and tangents and whatnot, because that's what I do, and it's gonna take hours apparently for me to talk about one small little thing. Which I think is probably good for a podcast, I suppose. I've always really wanted to do a podcast, but
Yeah.
it's not really. I feel like there's almost no point if you do a podcast by yourself, and I could talk to chat or whatever, but I feel like that's not the same. So I want to do it with people. So I'd
Yeah.
love to have you back, not just for me to talk at you, but actual discussion and whatnot, which I feel
Yeah.
like we had, at
Yeah.
least a little bit.
Definitely.
Wasn't mostly me. Well, it was mostly me, but
But it is
tried.
your podcast, so
Um, what's something about you? You don't have to share if you don't want to, but
no, I
if you
kind of
want to
get what
think
you're
about it
saying.
more, you can.
No, I kind of get what you're saying. So for me, I think I would want people to know because it's definitely a big part of my life, good and bad. Obviously, there's pros and cons to everything, but it takes me a very, very, very long time to trust somebody or get close to somebody. But once
Mm,
I do, I'm loyal to a fault. Um, And I'm very, I mean, there's obviously varying degrees of loyalty always, but um, I'm very, mm,
Right. I'm
if
sort of the
you,
same way.
yeah, if you're close enough to me for me to trust you at all, I'm going to be loyal to you and I'm going to give you benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give you,
Right.
I'm going to defend you like you wouldn't believe. I'm very, very loyal, which has gotten me some really amazing
Right.
like long term
And
friendships.
some of that is, time. I feel like we're fast friends, but maybe there isn't like a whole lot of like deep trust there, and that's fine.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm one of those people that trusts everyone. I love everyone. I want to support everyone. I care about everyone. And that's a problem. Being passionate is oftentimes a bad thing more than a good thing. Um, but I'm very much one of those people that it is hard for me to get close to people, be vulnerable. I'm almost to the point where I'm like a fake social butterfly, where I'm like running around trying to find people that I can, get close to, and it never works. But then when I do, then I start to get scared and like more specific about what I'm saying and doing, and like trying to make sure that this is okay and this is gonna work, and.
Right.
So I don't
Yeah.
feel like I have a whole lot of friends, especially
Yeah.
close friends. But I feel
Yes.
like I
I'm
sort of
the same.
make friends. It's hard because growing up, like it's so easy for kids to sort of socialize and hang out, but I never felt like I could. So I never felt like I had any friends because I couldn't be casual or myself around other people. That just wasn't possible.
Oh,
But
100% know what you mean.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I just had a very, very bad history of like being bullied and whatnot. Um,
Hmm.
so I never had the opportunities for friendship, basically, other than
Right.
like someone that didn't hate me. That was
Yeah.
literally all I had. Those were the people that, again, didn't really feel like friends, but like were acquaintances enough that I could be friendly towards. But
Yes.
no one ever talked to me outside of school. No one would ever invite me to anything. Uh, you know, I never really had a childhood. And goodness, I'm
Mm.
like going off on the tangents again. Like I could tell my entire life story. That's what this podcast is for. But going back to the point of like making friends is difficult, and I feel it is different for each and every person. You know, I've had people where I've spent years in the making, getting to know them, letting them get to know me, sharing this, that, and the other thing. And then as soon as you say like one thing, they just like instantly flip and like all this has been fake. You're a liar, and then they'll hate you and like completely block you out of your life, and you don't know where it came from or why,
Yeah.
because people are like it. It almost doesn't matter how much you like get close to them or explain or like try to describe like how you can be a little weird sometimes and hope that they're okay with that, and they say that they are, but then it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard to be vulnerable, I guess, or capable of accepting other people, you know
Exactly.
because I know I can be pretty weird sometimes.
Me as well. Me as
Yeah,
well.
it can be pretty scary. And then, you know especially when people turn on you, at a moment's notice, when you thought they were trustworthy or whatever.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's a lot of why it takes me so long to trust. It's just those things take a lot of time with me. But
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a pretty dour note to sort of leave the podcast on. Um, what's
but in
your
other news.
What's your favorite color?
Green.
Mm. Why?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just always been a happy color for me. I've always loved it. I I don't know. It's like calming for me.
Do you
Like
do you know what the color green symbolizes?
well, it depends on which feelings chart, but usually envy.
Um, Not necessarily emotions, but what it sort of means is like vibrance and like
Mm.
growth, a
Oh.
naturalness, if you think about like nature or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But there is like a general sense of power, like not when you normally think of power, you think of like something that's instant, like in your face and forceful, but like a deep sort of reservoir of like natural, residing ability. And I think I see a lot of that in you, as well as a very specific thing that green symbolizes. And maybe you don't know this. A lot of people don't know this, but if you think back to media, if you see figures wearing green or have green representing their character, what green symbolizes the most is leadership. Not
Oh,
necessarily
oh.
people in positions of power, but those that sort of get people to get. There's two kinds of leaderships. Well, there's multiple, but when you most think of like leaders, you think of like that one person that's super smart, that knows what to do and can figure stuff out and can delegate people and tells people what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not that kind of leader, but people say that I'm a leader. And that's sort of how I learned about the other kinds of leaders. The leaders that don't know what to do, don't
Mm-hmm.
know what's right or wrong, the right decisions to make or whatnot. They'll never ask anything of anyone, and yet they're always surrounded by people that will not necessarily look up to them, but come alongside them simply because they're the one person that's going to do something, that's moving,
Mm-hmm.
that's taking action. And, there are going to be people that will see that and come up alongside them and help support them, and whatnot. Because, you know, maybe they don't know what to do, but they're at least going to do something, you know. And those are the kind of leaders that you see. If you think of Robin Hood, if you think
Mm-hmm.
of Green Arrow, I don't know if you've seen that show or whatnot.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I have.
I could relate to a lot of things, um, but like if you think of like media, in leaders, you'll see that there is some sort of like green aspect to them and whatnot. It's kind of interesting, but I see a lot of leadership in you, not just because you're a streamer and whatnot, but I do see that there's like a subtleness to the way that you act and talk and think that gives you not necessarily like an air of authority, but like it's worth spending the time and effort, like being willing to listen to sort of what you have to say, basically, if that makes
Yeah, I
sense.
appreciate that. Yeah, no, I take that as a compliment. I think, yeah, I'm not very a very powerful leader in kind of the sense you were saying, but it is cool. That's a cool comment to hear that what I have to say is worth listening to.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot I can learn about someone just from their favorite color. And not just because I've done every single BuzzFeed quiz, but you know,
BuzzFeed quizzes, I get so
I've
addicted.
done a lot of research into like the mind and psychology and like
Hmm.
all these different things like dreams and whatnot, because I was trying to figure out myself when I was young or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
but before we go, I'll go ahead and briefly describe my favorite color, but I'll give you a
Yes.
chance to guess.
Okay. To guess your favorite color?
Yes.
Hmm. Okay, well, I don't know as much in depth of color as you, so this is just a shot in the dark. But blue?
It's close. Technically speaking, blue is probably my favorite color because it's like one of the. I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
You see it on your screen, and actually, I'll show you what the actual. This is the podcast screen. Um, so I'll let you try and guess what the other color is. It because my favorite color is technically not a color; it's a shade. It's actually the absence of color.
So white?
Yes, white is my
Okay.
favorite color. Um, and a little interesting information about white is that it's technically not a color because it's the absence of color. Black is the combination of all colors. Um, light, light is shown in waves and whatnot. So, if something is black, then it absorbs all light rays, but something that's white reflects all light. So it gives up freely, you know, and that's the kind of person that I am, that is always sending back and sharing, and whatnot. And I never hold on to anything. I can't, so I just constantly give away to other people. um, but because white is the combination of all colors, or it's the absence of all colors, it's very empty, it's nothing. But it's the combination of all light waves, which means it's very powerful. White symbolizes, purity, emptiness, but it also symbolizes, it, I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's like the difference between power and strength. Do you know what the difference between power and strength is?
Um, that's a good question. I would say strength is more about resistance, where power is more about, I don't know, making decisions or making things happen. Strength, I think, is more about like either resisting something or not letting the weight of something bear on you. Power is more about being able to, I mean, you have all the weight. I wouldn't say to necessarily control it because there's power trips everywhere, but
Here's my take on it, and I'll let you have a rebuttal. Power is the ability to do something. Strength is that the use of that power. And here's my explanation. A king has a lot of sway. He's got a lot of power, but like a leader is the one that has strength. If that makes sense.
hmm
If a king is just one man, so he's powerful, but if he kills all of his servants, and delegates and send them all away, then he's just one man. He has no power. He has no control. So strength is one of those things of not necessarily just how you use it, but sort of the drive and the ability to, again, not necessarily seek power, but being able to control it, and sort of your actions that you take in interacting and whatnot. So a volcano can be very powerful, but it's not strong. If that makes sense. Where I feel like
right.
power is more of like the raw innate ability, where strength is sort of how you use it. What do
Which
you
that
think?
actually, that's, I've never thought about that. That makes complete sense.
Um, yeah, my favorite color is white. It used to be gray, specifically slate. Like the color of
hmm
discord. It's that
hmm
blue gray.
Yep.
Um, and I don't know. I just kind of thought slate looked pretty cool. But also just sort of like looking at cars, like baby blue, is a very fun color and whatnot. And slowly but surely I realized that what I kind of like isn't just sort of that darkness. I used to, when I was younger, back when my life was darker, but now it's white. And I'm not exactly sure like what point I sort of made that jump or decision or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely a part of me, and I think does describe me, you know. And for the most part, it's like someone asks like, what's your favorite color, and I usually say like, depends on what it's for, if I want to like wear a color, or like paint something, uh, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't want my entire wardrobe to match my cars and my house, that would
Right.
not be, but I feel like white, I most things I would enjoy having in white, I suppose, which I think is sort of what the definition of like favorite, and like favorite color, I suppose. So I
Yeah.
feel I feel like white definitely defines me, if that makes sense, which I feel is
That
like what
actually.
most people
Yeah.
are asking, you
Yep. Yeah, I would agree. I would never buy a green car,
know.
but green is my favorite color.
I don't
I
wear a
never
whole
paint my
lot of
house green.
white. I actually probably wear
Yeah.
black the most.
I I wear black a lot.
Yeah.
Pretty much 90% of my wardrobe is
Black is
black or
pretty
gray.
common though, and it's like really
Yeah.
easy to find outfits in black.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we should talk about uh like fashion someday. Like, oh, what kind of earth tones are you going for? Like, it'd be
I
fun.
would have no idea what to say.
Yeah,
I don't know
exactly.
fashion.
Like,
I wear band tees and skinny
I think
jeans
you're
and
more of a
hoodies.
winter, so you need to be like getting with the reds and the like. I
Yeah.
don't know what to talk about like that. I
Yeah.
do know that there's like all that talk about like complementary colors or whatever, and I can understand that from like an art point of view, but they're like, oh, and your skin tone and how it matches your eyes, and I'm just like, can I just like get some pants and leave?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I don't know much about uh fashion at all. My sister was the fashionista in the family.
Okay. I did talk about fashion in the last podcast, which I actually technically haven't put up yet, so I should probably do that. Um, but yeah, you should probably get to your thing, and
Yeah.
get to streaming and whatnot. Um, I don't think I need to raid you with my two viewers. I think I can just tell them like, hey, go check you out, and get to see you. So I'll just
Yeah.
we'll
I
call it
could.
here, and I'll let you go. But thanks for coming, chilling with me and hanging out.
Yeah, thanks for having
Be
me.
honest. Was it going into this? What were you expecting, and how did it relate?
I
Were you expecting more
honestly
or less? Did you think
no,
this
I
was
I I didn't know much of what to expect because podcasts vary so much. Like
exactly? Well, it's
it
whatever you
depends on
make
what
it.
you're listening to. Yeah, and I was like, are we going to talk about history or folklore? Because we had brought that. I was like,
Oh
I don't
shoot,
know. I
that's
have no
right.
idea.
We were gonna
Eh,
talk.
and then it turned into streaming, which was fine. I'm happy to answer those questions too. It was more just like basic conversation. So, it
Yeah.
was it was
Sometimes
different,
you
but not
go
in a bad
into it
way.
with a plan and then you just forget.
And that happens. That's part of a
Because we
podcast.
just
Sometimes
started
you listen to
talking, and I
like,
feel like that's sort of what we're here
yeah,
for.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. You watch a Joe Rogan podcast, he has one guest that specializes in one thing, but they rarely spend 3 hours talking about that thing. Rarely. They go
Right.
off on tangents or they
Exactly.
discuss certain life situations or,
Well, the
you
first
know,
thing I wanted to do was sort of introduce you, so people got to know you, and like, I guess,
yeah,
appreciate your perspective and opinion, because I've already gotten
yeah,
two podcasts to do that, but you know,
yeah.
so yeah, uh,
But no, it was good.
yeah, love to have you back on again. Very
Yeah,
very fun and interesting.
yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Thanks for having
cool.
me.
All right. Uh, Probably won't be streaming at this time tomorrow. I don't know. It's gonna depend on when my D&D group ends. They usually end at this time actually. Um, Sometimes it depends, but wow, I'm like can't talk now for whatever reason.
Your
But
brain
yeah,
was like, "Oh, we're done. I'm shutting off." Okay.
I'll let you know, and you know
Good.
we basically tried to set this up of like, what's a good time? Okay, we'll do that tomorrow. Okay, can't do it tomorrow or today, so let's do it the next day. And it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's fine. There's no specific time that I think I'm gonna be specifically trying to shoot for. Again, I've only done 3 of these at this point, so I don't have a schedule or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll definitely work around, whatever you're doing.
Okay.
I'll try to keep it to about 2 hours. I think that's pretty good. But
Yeah.
again, no rules. It's a freaking podcast. You can do whatever you want.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right then.
So thank you again for coming, and I
Yeah. Thank
promise
you.
I'll let you go now. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Well, have a good night.
You have any parting words you want to say to me or the chat? I guess.
Stay stellar and be you.
I thought you were gonna say skate fast and eat ass.
You can do that too.
Stay
Definitely.
stellar and be you.
Stay stellar and be you. Yeah.
Thank you, all you beautiful creatures of the cosmos, and wrapping your tendrils of mindness around this beautiful podcast that we have here. Just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
get like super spiritual out of nowhere. Like,
Out of
thank
nowhere.
you
Yeah.
for aligning your chakras on this wonderful time.
Thank you for sharing your energy with me today.
Oh my
Really
goodness, there's the
appreciate it.
voice. She's doing the
Yeah.
voice.
That's the voice. Yeah. Yeah.
The,
Just turn it on.
you do have like a very silky voice. It's really
Thank you.
cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. We need to end this now.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Good night.
I will talk to you soon. Good
Yeah.
night.
Talk to you next week when we do the next D&D, basically. Actually, I'll probably talk to you sooner. We'll probably podcast before then.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Cool. All right. Bye.
Bye. Have a good night.
Night.